I was wondering if you could maybe share a little bit of an example of like what this has looked like in terms of recognizing an unconscious pattern and then doing something to I guess have the freedom of choice to do something different.
So I'll give you a simple one that's pretty easy to understand. So I was working with this leader who, among other things, he wanted to have better time management, right? Very straightforward. Okay, there's a lot of good tools for time management, and there's a lot of things that we could work on, and we started working on. So we were doing this, but one of the other things I did, I mentioned the Enneagram. I had done an Enneagram questionnaire with him and found out, in fact, he was another eight. He was another challenger boss. Some of the traits of an eight are they tend to like things to be in control, or even to be in control themselves, but they tend to resist being controlled by others or other things, right? So what we found was, as he began to use his calendar better, his to-do list better, and fill those up, he was unconsciously resisting it because he felt like he was getting boxed in and controlled by his calendar or his to-do list. And so there was this unconscious pattern of behavior, this unconscious resistance to being controlled that we identified through the Enneagram and we saw was coming up in this. And then we worked with that in addition to the actual higher level approaches and tools. If we hadn't done that, he probably would have gotten better, but not as much. Or, as often happens, he might have gotten better while we were working together. And then once we ended, he would have just gone back to his old pattern. But because we actually dealt with that underlying motivation behavior, I mean, he was much more successful. And I wouldn't be surprised if today he's still using those tools, whereas otherwise he might not be.
I'm curious, how do you find out the resistance during that collaboration?
I think there's a lot of ways to do that. Some are tools like the Enneagram, because the Enneagram does things like point to blind spots and stuff. A lot of it is my own experience and also my training as a coach and looking for those things. I like to call them impediments. Like, what are the impediments to reaching our goal or reaching our, whatever we're trying to work on? What's the obstacle? What's the impediment? And you can look at them in a couple of different ways. One is, first of all, a problem that needs to be solved. But the other way is sort of look at it as an opportunity. It's like, oh, here's an opportunity to grow. A lot of times I'm looking at it from that point of view. So I'll come in and it's like, oh, wow, looks like you're kind of resisting here or something like that. Or maybe I'll just ask. A lot of times it's more of an inquiry. It's like, so what is it? I feel like there's some resistance coming up. What do you think that is? What part of you do you think that's coming up? And they hadn't really ever thought of it that way. And so then they start to shift their awareness and they start to get a little more in tune to that. So a lot of it is tools, my own experience, but a lot of it is also the person themselves looking at it in a different way with a different awareness.